Hello, and welcome to Life with Francy podcast, a place where you will find all types of conversation like mental health, self-love, self-care, trauma, hobbies, and more. With this podcast, I want to create a place where we support one another in business and personal life. Hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get this show started. On today's episode, I have the amazing Gerard. I had to practice his name a little bit. He is a cancer survivor, ex football player, musician, advocate, and entrepreneur. Every underground movement needs a leader who knows what it takes to rise through the adversity. Longo is that leader. Gerard's interest in music began at an early age. In his early day, he was captivated by live performances. He became an active in the arts in his hometown of Long Valley. I'm gonna say New Jersey.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know the initials. Anyways, let's get to know him. So, welcome, Gerard. What is life with you?
Life with me right now is moving a mile a minute. Thank you for the introduction, by the way. And yeah, it is Gerard. You got it. I get Gerald, Jared, Gary, Garrett all the time. Like Greg, my statistics professor, called me Matt once for an entire semester. I didn't bother correcting. I wasn't a math major, but yeah, life's wild. I'm currently running Underground Music Collective. We're a digital music resource and multimedia services company based here in Nashville, where I live now. And that, I mean, there are so many facets to it. Like, I don't quite know where to begin sometimes, because we provide multimedia services. We push out daily content featuring independent music and music industry education. There's been a much larger emphasis on music industry education lately. Pulling in experts from around the industry to speak on different topics as part of our Wednesday Wisdom series. We put on live events under our Nash Live banner. I host my own podcast called The Quinn Spin, which is actually the origin point of all of this stuff that I do. And that's going to have its 10th birthday later this year. So we have so much under the umbrella of Underground Music Collective and what it is. And I've been in the game 10 years, and we're really starting to see some exciting things happen, including being here with you today, Francy. So really appreciate the opportunity.
That's awesome. But yeah, Nashville is all about music. I love that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, what motivated you to start your mission?
It was back in 2013, 10 years ago. Like I said, I was working the corporate job. I was in corporate America. I was still living in New Jersey at the time, living at my parents' house. I was 26, and I had a contract gig with a Fortune 500 company in New York, and it was a cool job. I learned a lot. I was in their like internal marketing department, like where they kind of created a lot of the marketing concepts. I was doing internal communications there, but I kind of, I felt it was post college. I kind of felt like a spoke in the wheel. I kind of felt like okay, well, this is my life now. I'm just going to get up, commute to work, come home, go to bed, lather, rinse, repeat. And I just, as 2013 went on, I just kind of felt this pull to find some kind of creative outlet, just this itch, like I was always active in the arts. I was active as an athlete growing up. I had just stopped playing football in 2012, about a year prior, maybe a little less. And I needed an outlet, looking back, I just really needed an outlet. And so it was one weekend in August of that year. It was a rare weekend that I had to myself because when I wasn't commuting into New York, I had a long distance relationship. My girlfriend at the time lived right outside of Philly, which was about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive from my parents' house. So like between New York and Philly, I'm never home. I'm never alone. I'm not, I never have time to myself. But she had, it was either a baby shower or a wedding shower. It's a long time ago. I don't remember quite which one it was. But that meant that I had a weekend, to do nothing and to just like kind of sit around and rest and kind of, go through some old creative projects and find myself a hobby. Right. And, I unearthed a bunch of writing projects. I actually spent some time outdoors for probably the first time all year. And then the Saturday night, I remember going back to my old college radio show. I was known as the Quinn on my college radio show because I wanted a pseudonym. I did the show with my brother at first, and just in case he said something I didn't want to be on the hook for, I chose a different name. And so my spinoff after he graduated was the Quinn Spin, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin, as it is now. And I'm listening, to some of what I thought were our best episodes. If I went back and listened to them now, I might think otherwise. but and I just I just started remembering like what that was like and what that was like to have people tuning in. We had a small but loyal following who would be there every week. They'd give us content for the show. And it felt like in our own small way, we were having an impact on these people. And, fast forward to this point in my life, I'm, in 2013, I'm working a corporate job. I don't feel like I'm having an impact. And that night, listening back to those shows, I realized that I wasn't done having an impact. I wasn't done writing my story. And so I decided right then and there, I'm going to restart the show as a podcast. I went to Best Buy the next day. I bought a USB mic. I created a couple social media accounts, the Facebook and Twitter handle we still use for the Quinn Spin today, designed the logo. And a few weeks later, we had our first episode. And from there, I had a bunch of friends that I did community theater with. They joined me as co-hosts through our original run 2013 through about the middle of 2015. And for a bunch of people who had no idea what we were doing, we did a pretty good job. We had guests on from 5 different continents. We really started putting that emphasis on featuring independent music because in the midst of this, my contract at that corporate job expired at the end of 2013. So I'm in 2014, and I'm working a bunch of odd jobs and I'm living at my parents' house and I'm thinking like, okay, let's see what we can turn this into, let's just follow the trail on this and see what kind of opportunities it creates. And it taught me so much, in those early days of building what has now become the Underground Music Collective platform, about marketing, about perseverance on a new level that maybe I hadn't even had the chance to learn on the football field or, during practice. And it taught me about, what it takes to be an independent creative, and in that run we released, I would say more than 100 pieces of content, across 5 continents, as I said. And, we put on events, we did fundraising events, we did one in particular at this beautiful lakeside venue in New Jersey, for the American Cancer Society. And it was really a valuable formative experience. It really made me appreciate what these musicians and what independent creatives go through, because at this point I was one. And that trail led me back to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where I went to Moravian College. It's now Moravian University, where I did the show in its college iteration. And that was mid 2015. I moved back to Bethlehem. The show goes on hiatus. I'm adjusting to my new life, living on my own, finally out of my parents' house. And there were a lot of life changes that occurred that year too. My mom passed unexpectedly and we were really close. I'm sure we'll get into that. And, I came to a point again with the show still on hiatus that fall after she passed and after a couple months of processing that, where I just needed an outlet again. And I still wanted to do the podcast, I was still passionate about it, but I'm like, there needs to be something more. There needs to be something surrounding it. It needs to be a piece of a larger thing. And I just moved to Bethlehem, which is about an hour north of Philly. There's a music scene there locally, it's pretty strong. And I decided, well, what if I started a blog and started like going out to local shows and like reviewing releases from local artists. And that blog was called Lehigh Valley Underground, because Lehigh Valley is that region of Eastern Pennsylvania, north of Philly. And so I launched that officially January of 16, and we gained a lot of traction, pretty quickly in the area. We started partnering with organizations larger than ours. Some of the more popular artists in the area caught wind of what we were doing, and we started teaming up with them on some things. We started putting on shows of our own. We had an entire First Friday concert series in South Bethlehem for more than a year, up until I moved to Nashville. And we won local awards. Like we built a good, strong community that in a lot of ways is still intact today. And we're going to actually be revisiting that later this year. And I may or may not give a little teaser of what that means. But, mid 20, through 2016, 2017, 2018, Lehigh Valley Underground is running strong. The Quinn Spin's a part of it. Still, trying to find its voice, its own niche within this larger ecosystem. And by mid 2018, I felt another pull. There had been more life changes. The year before, that long distance relationship I mentioned earlier had ended after 7 years, and I was kind of like, I was kind of lost at sea a little bit, personally. And it led me to this point mid 2018 where I just felt this pull to level up. And I started to realize that, it'd be best for me if I want to grow this platform to its highest potential to go to a place where the music industry is. Bethlehem, I love Bethlehem. It's home to me as far as I'm concerned, but the music industry is not there. There's a scene, but not the industry. There's not that like higher level infrastructure to help people further their careers within that sole ecosystem, right? So I was thinking, okay, what are some of the music markets in the country that I could go to? New York was an obvious choice because it was a lot closer than any of the other ones, right? And I had worked there before, years prior. I'd be close to family that way. I start going to New York. I was applying to jobs. I went in a couple times, dropped off resumes, wasn't hearing anything. And then I had friends visit, from high school who had just got married a few months prior. They were visiting up north over Labor Day weekend 2018. They had already moved to Nashville for work. And I met them for dinner and I told them, I was thinking about making a move. I wasn't quite sure what it was yet. I flew to New York out there. Nashville wasn't really a twinkle in my eye, though, until a couple of days later when my friend Anna, who married my friend Adam from high school, sent me a job posting based in Nashville. And I was like, really? And she's like, well, you said you want to make a move and we're trying to get a friend to move to Nashville. And I'm like, I'll play. All right, I'll apply to this. And then I got curious. I'm like, what else is in Nashville? I go on LinkedIn. I'm looking, and then it ends up in just all day, like job application spree on LinkedIn. I go to my security job at Arts Quest, which is the local arts nonprofit, the big one in Bethlehem, and like it's hours before the show. I'm standing, at a gate. There's nobody around. I'm just hitting easy apply, easy apply, easy apply on LinkedIn. There's nothing else going on. And then by the time doors open and bag check starts, I start feeling my phone vibrate that night. And I look when I get a chance a couple hours later, and I'm getting calls from 615 numbers, which is our area code here in Nashville. So it went from it being a shot in the dark to the move all in one day, moving to Nashville.
Wow.
And, I'm just like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I need to follow this trail. So I had applied to more jobs, got turned down for some, didn't hear back from others. All in all, like through this whole process, I probably applied to like 350 jobs, right? To get between New York and Nashville, to get myself going somewhere. And early November of 2018, I made a trip down here just to, it was actually my sister's suggestion. She's like, you need to go and just put boots on the ground for a few days and see what you can drum up pretty much. And, I took her advice and I went down, and by the end of that trip, I had a security job at the Grand Ole Opry. I already had a Lyft sticker on my car because I was already driving people around up in Bethlehem. So I'm like, and I had a place to live because by that point, my friends had told me they're buying a house and they need a roommate. So by the Monday after Thanksgiving in 2018, I lived here. I packed up my car with whatever would fit. I had probably less than $500 in the bank, and I just took the shot and went down to Nashville. And in the process, rebranded Lehigh Valley Underground into Underground Music Collective because it didn't make sense to have it be localized to the Lehigh Valley if I was living in Nashville, number one. But also, I didn't put Nashville in the name. And the reason I didn't put Nashville in the name is because we're based here, but we can go anywhere, and we can interact and we can support musicians, creatives in Nashville, LA, Austin, New York, up in Bethlehem, Chicago, wherever, all over the country, all over the world. And that was the way I drew it up, and that was something, that was done intentionally. And yeah, so I moved here the end of 2018, and it'll be 5 years in November. And, I know I've kind of rambled here a bit, but, I want to give you a chance to, ask more questions, but that's what brought me here. That's the origin story, if you will.
Wow, yeah, sounds so exciting. You had a lot going on.
Yeah.
So underground music, that's amazing.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a labor of love, and it's one of those things where I think the definition of what underground is has changed and evolved for me over time, because underground and independent, doesn't have to mean that it's not good, that it's not professional, that, you're not shooting for the highest reaches of success in the industry. You know, you have more and more, especially with the tools at our disposal here, you know, in the 21st century, you have independent artists, you know, breaking through into the mainstream. You have independent artists, independent creatives of all kinds, you know, finding ways to invest in themselves and finding ways to compete at those high levels. It's a lot of work, you know, and it takes a lot of grit. It takes a ton of sacrifice. And these are all, I think, lessons I've learned on my own, but you can get there, you know, and that's one thing that we really strive to communicate now is, you know, there's opportunity out there for everybody if they're willing to seize that opportunity. And we want to provide people with the tools, with the resources, the education, the coaching, everything that they need to really take that professional at bat and really make a run at this thing. Because at the end of the day, why do we get into it? We get into it because we want to have an impact. We get into it because we want to succeed. We want to have our music be heard. We want to have our thoughts shared. We want to connect with people. And so our platform exists to help people make those connections.
That's awesome because we need it. And like right now, like people need community. And especially in the music business, because like you said, it's like a huge, it's huge when it comes to music. There's different types, country, you know, and all that stuff. How do you guys help other people get there, you know, to get their name out there and, you know, go after the dreams?
Well, community is really the name of the game. I'm glad you used the word community because we're all about fostering community. We subscribe to the idea of the rising tide raises all boats. And, you know, we're only going to get as far as we go together. You know, there's no one person who's ever quote unquote made it. And I'll get into what making it actually is a little
bit, please, let's do
it's not
this.
what people think. It's not what people think, but like, you know, like nobody's ever done that by themselves. You build a team, you build a community around you, right? Like you can get so far by yourself, but at the end of the day, like you're gonna need help. You're gonna need to delegate. I found myself at that point, especially recently, where it's like, we're taking on some really audacious, ambitious things here at Underground Music Collective. And there's absolutely no way I would even be in position for those things if I didn't enlist help, you know, whether that's hiring my PR team, whether that's these contributors that have been offering us this Wednesday wisdom content, you know, the folks that we are enlisting, you know, to as UMC verified creators to offer client service projects like photography, videography. Like it takes a team to build a company, to build a platform that then can be the supportive ecosystem for the musicians trying to make it, and to build the community for those musicians to draw upon, you know, whether they're enlisting the help of our people, enlisting our services to create this content for them that's going to help them get closer and achieve their artistic vision, whether it's they're digesting the educational content, whether it's just going back to an old-fashioned podcast interview, review, or playlist ad. You know, like there's so many ways that we can help. There are so many ways that we're set up to help. And it's 10 years of just like tweaking and building and modifying this platform, understanding what works and what doesn't, understanding that what might not have worked 5 years ago might work now that we have the resources or the knowledge, you know, and being just flexible and malleable and being open to new ways to building that community, being open to all genres as well is very important to me. You know, I always have kind of said tongue in cheek, no genre left behind, because what I've seen out here, specifically like in the blog ecosystem and like the music media ecosystem, is like so many outlets will just focus on one genre or a handful of genres. Like, you know, they'll be country exclusive or rock exclusive or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're limiting the community you can build if you're just exclusive to what your personal taste is, you know. And I also have the benefit of I like everything, and I know everyone says that, but like there are parts of every genre of music that I enjoy. You know, there are parts of some that I don't enjoy, but, you know, I try not to let that seep through. And I try to just remember, you know, even if the music isn't necessarily my personal cup of tea from a listener perspective, and this is a person still trying to build a platform from zero. And I have the tools and I have a platform to help them do that, you know, and that's what's important is they're trying to tell their stories. They're trying to share their truth. And that's what Underground Music Collective exists to do, you know, by having all these resources available, but also by having this entire community of artists and creatives and industry professionals that we can draw upon and that we can learn from. It's amazing to think for me, that's what this has become 10 years after that night in my childhood bedroom, realizing I just want to do something to have an impact. I want an outlet, and I'm starting a podcast, and yeah. So, I mean, it's amazing to see like the community that we've built and what that continues to grow into. And it's inspiring, and it gets me kind of ready to go for the next 10 years, really gets me looking forward to everything to come, including things that I don't even know what they are yet. They'll meet me on the road.
Yeah, I totally get that. Um, and yeah, do you have any tips like how a creative can balance their mental health as well?
Yeah, you got to make time for yourself, which is something that I'm guilty of not doing, myself, which is how I know, right? I don't see. Here's the thing, we recently launched a coaching program, and I found myself for years, when I take on like a social media client, or I take on like, a client of any nature, I end up coaching them too. So we formally launched a coaching program, and I come at this from 10 years of experience, not only in terms of what I've learned about the industry, but what I've learned about life and how you have to show up to it in order to succeed in your creative endeavor. And you have to make time for you. You have to keep things in balance. You have to keep things in perspective. And it can get lost, in this digital world where we're on demand all the time. Like, it can be really hard to keep that in mind. It can be really hard to break away. I mean, I'm on this thing more than I should be, throughout the day, week, month, year. I always, smile a little bit when my phone tells me on Sunday night that my phone usage was actually down by a couple hours. That's a step in the right direction every week. But, one way that, I make time for me is in August, I go back to Bethlehem and I work Music Fest. And I'm taking a working vacation, but it feels like a vacation because it just gets my brain moving in an entirely different way, where I'm outdoors, I'm interacting with people all day. It's 14-hour days in the heat in the middle of August. But for some reason, it's so relaxing to me, because you're reconnecting with all these people, you're remembering where you came from. You're kind of tapping into this source energy. And what I did last August was, after Music Fest, I actually stayed a couple extra weeks up in the Northeast. I go to Cape May, New Jersey, for the beach every year, Labor Day weekend. And I just stayed through from the end of Music Fest through Labor Day weekend. And it was just such a beautiful opportunity to reconnect, to people, to spend time with my nieces and nephew, who I'm really close with, to just really reconnect to where I came from and remember why I started this whole thing in the first place. And I'm up there for 5 weeks total. And, I'm working, all the while, I'm still working remote and, keeping things active. But by the end of that trip, it's like, okay, I'm ready to go back to Nashville, and I'm ready to just go all out as we head into 2023. And, I credit that trip in particular for getting my mind frame right, getting me prepared for everything that we've, enjoyed the opportunity to do since, and everything that's to come. Because if it weren't for that, I don't know that I would have been, in the right frame of mind for the success and the opportunities that are coming in. The first half of 2022 and most of 2021, it was challenging personally for me, because I took the leap from corporate America for good at the start of 2021. And what I learned is that leap teaches you every single thing you need to know about yourself. And I don't just mean in a professional sense. You figure out the holes in your game real quick when you are responsible for every single dollar and cent that comes in, and you're not relying on a corporation. And you have to get over your own fears. You have to get over your own resistance, or if you don't get over them, you at least have to learn how to manage them, and you have to learn how, you have to redefine your relationships with them. And I remember first half of 2021, I was living in fear. Even though I had already taken the leap, I was kind of frozen. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I go make money? How do I go, how do I go build this thing? Now that I don't have that safety net of a corporate job, that I'm working from home in the middle of pandemic anyway, and it's not terribly active in the first place, it was paying well. It got, it certainly got me the stability that every person wants to have, but it wasn't fulfilling, and so I took that leap, but then once you take the leap, it's like, oh, this is real now. And now I have to make this work. And how do I do this? And it's not even that this was the first leap I've taken, away from the confines of a day job, but like, it was always the one that I intended to make stick no matter what. And because of that, like, you just redefine your relationship with fear. You learn to, because you have to, or you're just going to repeat the cycle. You're just going to repeat the lesson. You're going to go back. You're going to revert into, your previous role. And it's only going to delay your vision. It's only going to delay your passion and your dreams from being realized. Right. And so that's a pact I've made with myself, is no matter what, like, I'm going to find a way to keep going. But it's not easy to get there, because you learn these lessons, a lot of times the hard way, about who you are and how you've shown up and why it hasn't happened yet. And then you have to internalize those lessons and make the adjustments you need to make to show up better and create a better, stronger platform and a better, stronger you.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Great advice.
Thanks.
Oh yeah. What is some exciting projects are you working right now? Can you share a little bit?
Oh yeah. Well, we have the Wednesday Wisdom series going, where we bring in industry experts from all over, to share their insights into various topics, and it depends on the month. It depends on, if there's a specific theme to the month. Like, we had some really good Women's History Month content during the month of March. But it could be anything from highlighting women in the industry, highlighting movers and shakers who've had an impact, to offering people insight, tips, advice, as far as productivity hacks, as far as, how to redefine your relationship with your fear and resistance, that kind of thing. So we have that. We have a series of virtual panels that we've been presenting every month since February. Those have been really well received. We've had guests on, as panelists who, they've been nominated or have won Grammys. They've worked in the industry for 40 plus years for any company you could imagine. And we've had attendees, virtually from all over the world. From Canada, we had somebody in March for our Women's History Month panel all the way in Ghana who was tuned in. It was like 1 a.m. in Ghana, and this person's tuned in, and watching the entire thing. And we just in April, just last week, we had our Jazz Appreciation Month, or Jam roundtable, with, again, a lot of renowned people in the jazz genre. And we're going to continue that, because it gives us a chance to offer different perspectives, offer different insights into the industry. And it helps us build our community and our network, and it helps us, offer, more insight and expertise as a resource to the musicians, to the industry professionals, to aspiring industry professionals who just want to learn, just want to get started. Like, you have all this valuable world-class knowledge at your disposal through our platform now, which is mind-blowing to me, knowing where we started, but excuse me, but it's there, and it's really exciting. And then one thing that we also, if we haven't officially launched this yet, we are going to in the next couple of weeks, is we have a team now of UMC verified creators who are creative professionals in the fields of photography, videography, web design, graphic design, that our community can hire for their creative needs. So if somebody needs freshened up photos, or they're going in a new artistic direction and want somebody to work with them on that vision from a photographic standpoint, we have people in-house that can do that. Same with videography, web design, branding, graphic design. We have some really talented, vetted professionals who will give you really quality work. And the thing that we're doing too is, once the projects are completed, we're highlighting that through our own channels as well. So the client, the artist, gets, extra shine from the Underground Music Collective platform. The UMC verified creator gets promotion as well, which leads them to get more work, and it helps strengthen the platform and helps strengthen everybody. It really does feed into that idea of the rising tide raises all boats. So we have that going on. We have the Quinn Spin is in its 10th year now, and we've got some 10th anniversary celebrations coming up. We're making some plans for some exciting things. we do have a 10th anniversary show we'll be putting on at the Cobra, which is a local venue in town, on September 8th. That is 10 years to the day of episode 1, which is amazing. They gave me that date. When I realized that, I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing with that one. I'm bringing all previous guests, to perform. We might have a couple surprises, and there'll be more content. There'll be more special things that we do leading up to the 10th birthday. I am planning on spending some time up north in August again. And me and my co-host from that era, who still pop on with us once in a while, we've batted around the idea of going back to the basement where my parents' basement where we recorded the show.
I love that.
We called it Mom's Basement Studios, and that my mom was always super supportive of the show and did whatever she could to help us in those early days. And now that it's coming back around to the 10th birthday, it's a good chance to come full circle. So really excited the show. I'm more happy with it than I've ever been in these 10 years, because the conversations are incredible. The guests are always able to bring such insight, and it's just a chance to sit and talk. It's a chance to sit and talk and gain understanding, of what they're doing, but also just understanding of this industry and where people fit in it, where this platform fits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been the podcast, over the past few years since moving to Nashville, has become such an educational opportunity for me to understand different perspectives, understand the challenges that people face in this industry. And it's really informed a lot of what we're doing. It's really informed this, move toward education that we've taken over the past couple of years. So there's that. Of course, we have live music events coming up all year through our Nash Live brand. We have one actually coming up at the East Room May 4th, which is Thursday. And we've got a bunch throughout the year. Like I said, that September 8th date at Cobra is in celebration of the 10th birthday of the Quinn Spin. So a lot going on, more to come. Future plans, so much in store, and it's always like, it's exciting to always have the next thing on tap, because, that's how you build momentum, and that's how you really make your voice heard in this industry, is you always have the next thing up, and it feeds into the next and the next and the next, and you build this whole chain reaction, this whole domino effect, based on what you're putting out there consistently and to the level of quality that we're doing. So I'm really, really excited for the rest of this year and the years to come. I feel like, it's been 10 years, but we're just getting started.
Yeah, and I love that. Like 10 years, like that's crazy. I just started my podcast journey a year ago, and I just can't imagine being like, oh, it's been 10 years since I decided to go for my own thing. Especially from corporate world, I'm still in it. I say I am a mail lady during the day and a podcaster at night. So I can relate, as you was talking about your story, because I'm trying to create the same resources and tools, but for people that suffer from mental health, so they don't feel alone and, struggling. And I can see, a singer trying to get their career started and everything, and you already have all that community and network to offer them. And that's amazing. I'm glad that you created that for them.
Oh yeah, I thank you for that, because this industry will beat you up, and I make no bones about that. Like, it's tough, and here's the thing: you have you have a lot of people in the marketing space and like the digital space, the guru types, who tell you how easy this all is, right? And who present this as, oh, well, you just need to do this, you need to be more like, no, everyone has their own story, everyone has their own journey, and while there are best practices that work, for sure, you have to learn those lessons, and you have to go through it. There's an element of having to go through it yourself. And I think the value of coaching, because like I said, we launched this coaching program. It's not for me to come at you and tell you everything you need to do. It's for me to take the walk with you and tell you, hey, I've encountered this situation before. Here's how I navigated it. Or, to spark ideas, to have somebody there to hold you accountable to your goals, to help you set those goals in the first place and identify what those are, to help you identify your mission, vision, and values. It's to walk with you instead of come at you, because we're all walking. We're all on this journey. Some of us have just been walking a little longer. Some of us have been walking for 1 year. Some have been walking for 10 years. We can all learn from each other. And I think the more experience of us, we have a responsibility to take that leadership role, but educate in a way that is supportive, that is communicative, that pulls people up, instead of kind of pointing down, and that's one thing that, over the past few years, I've just seen in the guru space that grinds my gears a bit is like seeing this, like, listen to me, I'm the authority on this. When the truth is, we're all figuring it out, and some of us do have more knowledge and experience than others. Sure. But there are always ways to learn, always ways to grow. And that's the one thing I want to preach is that, like, we're on this ride together. And if I can help somebody navigate their ride by the ways that I've navigated mine, and honestly, by a lot of the trial and error and the hard lessons I've learned, then that's what I want to do. So it's important to have that, because like I said, this industry, it will beat you up, and there will be moments of discouragement. There will be moments where you want to quit altogether and just go be normal, right? Like we're coming up on 10, and I've been reflecting a lot on that journey on the past decade, and there have definitely been points where, like, there were natural stopping points where I could have been like, okay, I tried it. Like when the show went on hiatus in 2015, like that would have been an easy point. I relocated. I would have been like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy my life back in Bethlehem and kind of watch the stars fade here. But there was just something that always pulled me back into it. And then when my mom passed, it was, well, now I need an outlet again, and it led down this entire path that unwittingly at the time led me all the way here to Nashville. But like there have definitely been points, along that journey, and even since 2015, in the process of moving here, that might have been another point where I was like, you know what? Okay, I tried it. I had a good run. Let's go get a normal job and just, do that thing for a while. But there's always just been this pull. And if it's in you, like, you're going to find a way to make it work. But you need the support, you need the community, you need the right energy around you, and the people who will, who you can exchange that energy with. Yeah, I was going to say who can give you that energy, but it's not just a get, it's not just them giving it to you. You've got to give it back to them. You get what you put in. And that energy exchange is so important. And one thing that's really become important for me, especially over the past year, is protecting my energy and managing the energy that's around me, managing the energy and the types of people who are allowed into my life, because there will be people who detract, there will be people who, will be very vocal that they don't believe in you, that they don't support you. And nobody needs that negativity, especially when you're starting out and you haven't been battle tested enough to know that they don't know what they're talking about, because, like, how many of us have, heard something from a relative or a friend or just some random person on the street that was negative, when we got discouraged and kind of went into our shell and stopped trying as hard or striving for what we wanted, because we were afraid of that rejection. We were afraid of failure, like, you need the supportive community around you. So the sooner you can cut out the unsupportive, or even if you don't cut them off, just keep them at a distance, the better you'll be. And that's something that I've learned over the past year in particular, is like, you have to protect your energy, and you have to make sure that the energy around you is adding and not distracting you from your vision. That's kind of, that me saying that is inspired too. I listened to The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes, and Mel Robbins.
Oh yeah, I love that.
One of the many Mel Robbins episodes, she said, like, they were talking about relationships in particular, and she made the point, and I might misquote this, but it was, is this relationship giving you additive positive energy, or is it a gigantic distraction that's pulling you away from yourself? And that internally, you can feel it. You might not want to recognize it. You might not want to admit it sometimes, but, like, whether a situation is right for you based on how it feels. And as you go through life and you gain more experience and you get older, like, I don't know that you realize it more. You just become more comfortable more quickly with the realization that this is right versus this is not right, and adjusting the sails from there. But it's important to really have that good support system around you. And for me, it's really helped, surround myself with like-minded people who are also striving for something, who are also trying to create something from nothing. And Nashville is full of those kind of people. So I'm in the right place. I'm not to say anything about where I've lived previously, because there are plenty of people who fit that mold, back in Bethlehem or even back home. But, this is where the music industry happens. And so, and the great thing is now, with technology being what it is, people from anywhere can connect to the community here and vice versa. And, it all comes back around to what we're building at UMC. we're able to foster that community and really have it based at the heart of the industry. So that's why we're able to do the work that we do and build the community we've built.
Nice. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Is there anything else that you would like my listeners to know about you?
Just follow us everywhere. At UMC Nashville is the main Instagram handle. That's also our YouTube handle. You can look us up on Facebook and Twitter as well. I think Facebook might still be letter U Music Collective, just because I haven't changed it yet. Twitter is at UMC Nashville. Follow the Quinn Spin, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. That's my baby. That's my art form in all of this, right? Like, that's the one thing, like, as we're transitioning and growing as a company, like, eventually I'm going to be, focusing more and more on the big picture of this and not necessarily creating the content so much. But that's one piece of content I'll never let go of. That's my baby. That's the origin point. That's like, musicians have music. I have that. I have Spin. And not to say I won't ever drop the mixtape, but like, for now, like, that is my creative outlet, because I get to just sit in that chair or sit in this chair or wherever I'm recording the show, and just, it ends up being whatever it ends up being. There's no pressure on it. And since taking the pressure off of it, and just going to this open format, I feel like, it's really had a chance to hit its stride. I'm so excited about that. I feel like, here in year 10, the show is more what it has always been intended to be than it's ever been. So definitely follow the Quinn Spin and Nash Live. We've got shows coming up. Like I said, if you're in Nashville, we've got a good pop bill that we put together with our friends Forts Like Vanna. We also have a couple other artists on that. James Cole is another great one. And that's May 4th at the East Room. I don't know if I said the Cobra, but it's the East Room. We have a lot of shows at Cobra, but East Room's right across the street. So that's May 4th. That's a Thursday night. And just check us out. Underground Music Collective is the central hub for all things. So if you go to undergroundmusiccollective.com, you'll find the answers you are looking for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I did wanted to mention that I found you through Podmatch, an amazing community for podcast hosts and podcast guests to find each other and, do some amazing collaborations like this one. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Very excited for this, and we'll do it again sometime.
Awesome. So, alrighty. I hope you enjoyed this episode and this interview as much as I did. You can follow my podcast in every major platform as well as my YouTube channel. You already know what to do. Like and subscribe. Have a blessed day.